Hello, I'm back with part 2 of how to use COCA. So, in the last video we did a basic search to find out the most frequent um, most frequent words after regardless, and we found regardless of was the most common, right? So that tells us we should use regardless of probably if we want to sound more natural when we use English. But something else to think about when you're talking about how to use English naturally is who you're talking to. Are you talking to your boss? Are you talking to your friend? Are you talking to your roommate or your host mother? Um, these the people you're talking to change how you talk. I know this is true in your first language. You don't talk to your friends and your parents the same way. You don't talk to your parents and your academic coordinator the same way. That's true in English too. So we really want to know if the words that we learn are safe for use on Facebook, if they're safe in academic writing, if they're safe for writing a fictional story, right? And here I mean safe, I guess meaning natural. Although if you're talking to your boss and you use the wrong word, it might really feel unsafe. You don't want to make your boss angry, right? So I'm going to do the same search as last time, but I'm going to use a new feature of COCA to change how I see the results. So I'm going to go to search, and I don't click back, I just click on search again. And this time I'm going to click this checkbox next to sections. COCA gives you the choice of seeing your results by different genres. Genres are different situations that language is used in. For example, the kind of language that's used on Facebook is different from the kind of language that's used on television, right? And you can see the results separated into those categories depending on where the samples came from. So I'm going to turn on sections, and that will just give me the same results, but it'll be broken down into different categories. So the categories are blog, web general, TV, movies, spoken. This is mostly TV news and things like that. Fiction, magazines, newspapers, and academic. This one is especially interesting to us because we want to use our words in academic essays and papers. Okay, and these are the scores per million. Okay, out of every million words from a blog, regardless of was 11.5 of them, right? So out of every million words, it found this 11.5 times. It doesn't sound like a lot, but these are actually pretty high for a string of 3 words together. And then especially in academic, 16.04 is the highest out of any of these categories, right? So you see this string, regardless of is used the most in academic writing, more than on the web, way more than on television, right? And even more than than in newspapers. So this is a very safe word to use in academic writing, right? It sounds right at home in an academic paper, okay? If I want to see the papers that actually used it, I can click on this and see them. However, regardless of these are all academic papers. As you can see, these look like academic papers. Oh boy, we have some statistics, right? I don't actually understand a lot of these other words. Amplicons, regardless of the DNA polymerase used in PCR. Yeah, it sounds academic, right? Okay, so that tells us if we're writing an academic paper, regardless of is definitely okay to use. And if we're, writing a script for a television show, then maybe this is not very normal sounding. My characters will sound really formal if I make them all say, regardless of right? Okay, so that's what the sections box here is useful for. I can also, if I click on these, I can only see the results for specific genres. So if I just want to compare movies with spoken, I can do that, right? But that's mostly useful if you're just trying to compare 2 categories by themselves, okay? So let's just try a few more of these so I can illustrate how this can be useful for you. Two searches that I almost always ask my students to do are you. Actually, I want the checkbox on. The word you, because you hear this all the time. I just used it. You hear this all the time on the internet, from your host family, from your roommates. And it doesn't always mean you. Sometimes it just means anybody, you know. For example, hey, you need to register for classes before May this year. And that you didn't mean you, it means any student, right? So in particular, that version of you, if I look it up, well, I'm finding any you, not just that version of it, but any version of you is uncommon in academic writing. You see, actually, academic writing has the lowest score of any genre for this word, right? And if we look for your or yourself, you'll see the same thing. And I ask my students to do this search exactly because I want them to see that they hear this word all the time on TV. They hear it from people around them in their lives when they just talk to people. That doesn't mean you can use it in your papers. Yeah, it sounds very odd because people are not used to hearing this word in academic writing. Another one is a lot. So it has exactly the same problem. A lot is very common in spoken English. Right? It's very convenient. You can use it with countable nouns. You can use it with uncountable nouns. It's very flexible. You can use it to mean often. You can use it to mean a high amount. And maybe because it's so, it's not clear necessarily about what it's talking about. Is it frequency? Is it amount? Is it something else? It's not seen very much in academic writing, right? So again, you'll hear this word all the time if you live in the United States. You'll hear it a lot, but you don't use it in academic writing. Not a lot, anyway. Okay. So how about a word that you might have learned from a book? So I've got a book right here called The Power of Habit. I'm just going to open it and try to find a random word that maybe a ALCC student wouldn't know the first time they see it. So right here, there's a quote that says, 4-year-olds who could delay gratification. I'm going to type that so you can see it. Delay gratification. I don't know if it's very common to see these words together. Maybe it's this author who does it more than anyone else. But I'm just going to see if this is semi-formal or very formal, or if it's something you might hear on TV. And let's see. Delay gratification. Sometimes COCA takes a little time to do a search. If this happens, don't hit search again. Just wait. The computer's thinking. Delay gratification. Okay, so these are the scores per million, and 0.13 is very rare, but I have to look at all the other genres to see if this is especially rare, or maybe it's just an unusual word overall. I see it's used the most in blogs and then also on the web. Never in TV or movies, not even 0.0. It's literally nothing. And a little bit in magazines and academic. Academic is about like 2/3 of blogs. That says to me that it's probably safe. It's just not a very common word overall. And it does seem to be pretty formal. If it's found in academic writing this much more than spoken. So that tells me it's probably okay to use. Okay, so I've done a few searches today to try to show you why sections are important. So that's the end of this that's the end of this video. Keep an eye out for one more video. Here we go.